Webinar about electronic ordering process within Peppol and how you can be prepared. Thank you so much for using time to join our webinar today. My name is Anders Ødegaard. I work as a product manager within Tietoevry in a unit called Data Platforms, and I've been working with Peppol related services since 2014, working with both payment solutions with Peppol, post-award, ordering messages and such, and also now e-government. Together with me, I have Jukka.
Yes, good morning. My name is Jukka Eloranta. I'm Anders' colleague in Finnish market and in Tietoevry Data Platforms unit. I'm product manager also for supply chain messaging in Finland. And I've been working with the same kind of supply chain services in many roles for about 20 years, but now about 1 year as a product manager.
Thank you. Some practical information first. If you have questions as we go along in the webinar, please ask them in the chat. We have scheduled 10 minutes for Q&A in the end of the meeting, so we will take up the questions then. The webinar will be recorded, and the link to the recording will be provided for participants after the webinar. After the webinar, we will also follow you up with a mail and send also the link and also other related information after the meeting. Today's agenda is the following. We will first talk about the challenge with data exchange and how you can exchange business data and what is the difficulties in you doing that in a digital way. We will talk about how Peppol solves some of these issues and also how Peppol work. Then we will have a brief update from the Peppol Authority news in Finland and how this will affect you. And also then in the end, what you need to do to get started with Peppol. But first of all, we will start with the challenges in business information data exchange. So your company needs to relate to a lot of different actors in the market. You have the different government institutions, you have your bank, you have your suppliers, and you have your customers. And you need to exchange business data with them. And of course, some of this business data is exchanged manually and have manual processes, but some of them also have digital processes. And when looking at traditional EDI, the challenge with that is that parties have different formats, or call it languages, which they represent the business data. And there are also different ways of exchanging documents. So let's say that you have one customer that is asking you to send an electronic order to them. Then you may do that in one format and you set up one communication for that. But then the next customer is demanding maybe the same format, but a slightly different communication and slightly different formats. And this gives time-consuming testing. And different demands from your partners drives cost and does not scale easily. So that is the challenge. If you look at how Peppol solve these challenges, we can start with the format which they represent the business data. Only Peppol BIS documents are allowed to be exchanged in the Peppol network. And in addition, there's no customization of these formats, and validation from the sender is required before sent to the market. So meaning that it will always be the same format. You can trust that it will not be different from one sender to another sender. And then in addition, there is a standard way of exchanging business documents. So once connected to an access point, you can reach all. So meaning that you don't need to agree on a different way of exchanging this business document. Let's say it's an XML or Edifact or whatever. this is defined when you have connected to an access point. So that brings limited or no need for testing because format is validated and following a standard. So you can trust that the format is the same from each sender. And then communication to your parties is always the same. There's no specific setup for communication to the different parties, as in traditional EDI. And of course, this brings reuse of format and communication and enables effective investments and scalable setups. Now we will look at a bit more practical example of how this works. So let's say that we have a sender, a customer that wants to order something from their receiver. And in this example, we will show how these documents flow. So the first thing the sender does, and this is a simplified picture. So let's say that the sender can send a Peppol order document. They will then look up in the address book. That is a public address book. And they will check, okay, can my supplier receive the documents I want to send in the network? And when that is confirmed, they can then deliver to their approved access point. So then they have established an access point provider and set up that previously. What the sender's access point then does is to check up in the same address book. So, okay, there are many different access points in the market. So which access point do I deliver to? And then that information is also from this address book. And then the sender's access point will then get, okay, this is access point or service provider X that is going to receive it. Then the receiver's access point receives that document in a standard way because the communication between corner 2 and corner 3 is always the same. That is defined by Peppol, how that's going to be done. And then the receiver access point sends the document to the supplier in an agreed way with their customer again. So this is what we call the four-corner model in Peppol. So, but what is Peppol, or who is Peppol? So Peppol enables public and private organizations to send and receive standard format business documents in an open and secure network. And they also deliver the governance to make it work with agreement structures to ensure compliance. So, and basically we can summarize these responsibilities in 3 parts. So Peppol's 3 main responsibilities are transport of documents, meaning they have the responsibility for the building blocks that enable exchange of documents. An example of such building blocks are how access points are going to work, the address books, the certificate managements for having secure communication between access points, basically to ensure high security and reliability for the exchange of documents. Then the second responsibility is specification of formats. So formats that support value chains. And they support that mainly in 2 areas. It's the pre-award domain. Basically, that is processes and business documents before a contract is signed. That is not so relevant maybe for most of you here, but the most relevant domain is the post-award domain. And the post-award domain support processes, business processes after an agreement is signed. An example of such processes are order response, catalog, dispatch advice, invoice, and so on. And they also continually improve the quality and capabilities in these business documents. So it's a living, have different versions, and they have a governance around that. And then the third and very important part that Peppol is doing is the governance part. So they are developing and maintaining the legal framework that define the network governance. So making sure that the actors in the network follow their commitments defined in the agreements. And the success of Peppol relies on participants following these rules defined. But it's not Peppol that is following up that you are compliant. It is the Peppol authorities. So in Finland, service provider that sign up with the Finnish Peppol authority is followed up by the Finnish Peppol authority, the tax authority in Finland. And Peppol started as a European initiative, but now it's more a global initiative. There are open Peppol members in over 39 countries, and there are 35 countries with certified Peppol service providers such as us. And there are 17 countries with Peppol authorities, meaning those that are following up the governance and that making sure that the service providers, all the members, are following the rules and requirements. And Tietoevry have delivered Peppol services since 2012. Today we have access point services within the Peppol Post Award. We support all type of documents defined in the Post Award domain, like invoice, reminder, credit note, special advice, catalogs, order and order response and such. Then we also support an access point for sending payment messages. So for the Norwegian government, they are requiring that the banks are going to support receiving documents through Peppol payment. And then the last service that we have providing is the Peppol e-government, that is enabling the governments to exchange documents to citizens, digital post services. And so we are highly invested in this Peppol domain, and we have over 22 million documents sent through the network last year. But now let's hear a bit more about what's happening in Finland, Jukka.
Yeah, thank you, Anders. So, like mentioned, there's now a Peppol authority in Finland also, starting this year, and State Treasury has taken that role, and they are acting there as promoting the Peppol sort of usage in Finland, and also setting the rules and steering it in that way. In practical level, they have started procurement of this address and capability locator solution, which is a vital part of the addressing. It is the address book in a sense, yeah. And they are also initiating the service provider agreements so that we can get service providers under this Finnish authority to operate as it is required. And as part of the promoting Peppol usage, they also organize training and coordinate different kind of development projects, for example, in logistics area. Okay, and how will this then affect you and basically every business in Finland also? Is that Finnish state has taken the initiative to start onboarding to Peppol orders and order responses in the beginning of April next year. So in practice, that means that
Jukka,
yeah?
Could you just please take over the control of the presentation so that we are on the correct slides here? Yeah,
sorry.
Very good, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so if you do business with Finnish state, the requirement will affect you, and you will be at some point required to respond to an electronic order. So this will then of course boost the Peppol usage in the market, and once companies are getting into it, I think there is no reason why not to expand the usage in business to business and not only business to government processes. And in general, there are those benefits. I think what Anders also touched a bit, that companies are getting competitive advantages with Peppol, like faster time to market and more agility in onboarding and better quality of business data. And those are, I believe, those are the items that are actually then impacting on the costs quite a lot currently. So how to get started with Peppol? Of course, first need to identify the stakeholders, and I think the key stakeholders are your system vendor, meaning some ERP vendor usually, and then your service provider that you need in this Peppol world. So you should check with your system vendor that does your system support already Peppol biz messages, or if it doesn't, then you probably need to agree on some kind of a conversion to be done with your service provider. And then of course you need to find a certified access point provider, and they are usually same companies that have been providing EDI services also. And then you need to agree with your service provider how to in practice set this up, and what kind of services is needed to be agreed. And then in the business process side, you should check your partner's capabilities and study the available processes and see which ones you would like to start. Like for example, the Finnish state is starting with order and order response, and then taking some other processes after that, one by one. So we've collected some useful links where you could find more information about Peppol. There is the Peppol, Open Peppol homepage. In there you can find a list of Open Peppol members, like service providers, authorities, and so on. And then you have also the Peppol directory where you can search for your business partners' capabilities. And also Finnish State Treasury has their website for Peppol, so please study that also. That has the practical things for Finland, and it has also some excellent training material available there. And then of course Tietoevry has its own Peppol services in the website described also. All right. So far, what we've been talking in this webinar has been about the challenges with data exchange, how it has been in the EDI world, and then also looking into how Peppol is addressing those challenges and providing solutions into those. Then we've been looking at how will this affect you in practice in quite let's say short notice also, and then how to get started with Peppol. All right. I think we are now ready for some questions. So Anders, do we have
no, not so many questions
in the chat?
No, not so many questions yet, but maybe we can go back to the summary slide. Maybe that could trigger some questions.
Yeah. All right. So meanwhile, maybe Anders, I will ask something from you.
Yeah.
So how to get the new B2B integration connection through Peppol if using Peppol access point?
Yeah, and let's say that you have already established an access point, and you want to deliver to a new party or B2B connection. Or let's say that you have an access point service and you have established that, and you want to send to the second supplier or customer. So that is the genius about Peppol, because you don't need to agree about what type of format you need to send. You don't need to agree about how communication is to be done, because that's already defined in Peppol. So the only thing that you need to do is to make sure that your customer or supplier can receive the document you want to send. And then you can do that in the address book as described. And then it will be just automatically delivered. So you can then just deliver to us as a service provider. We're delivering access point services, and we will look up in the address book and then deliver it automatically. You don't need to talk with the B2B party or the business before, because when you're registering to say yes to a document or registering that you can receive an ordering document, you're also indirectly saying yes to everyone. So there's a very fast way of connecting to new parties.
Okay.
And in your opinion, so we have another question here. So in your opinion, what are the biggest changes and or benefits between the current practices and the Peppol model? So maybe I could just try to answer that, but I mean, at least for me, the biggest benefit for this is the scalability of connections, that you don't need to do as much testing as previously. Because if you have a customer or a supplier that is demanding slightly different format or a different way of communication, you need to verify that this communication and this format is working with your solution. So you're minimizing the efforts for testing, and you're also automating. You don't need to talk with the parties in the network, because that's when the parties are connected with each have their own access points, you are connected to the whole network. So it limits a lot of this testing if you trust the format. I see that we also have another question here. So is there any industry-specific retail or additional instructions in Peppol regarding content to be delivered between parties? So I would say it is today it is generic formats most. The Peppol-based ordering are generic formats, and they are maybe designed in the eyes of the public sector, but the public sector have vendors in many different areas and many different industries. So that means that the format is quite wide. And there are examples for some industry-specific specifications for the usage of format, but not changing the format. But okay, so if you are in specific industry, we would like it to use it the format in this and this way. We have seen some examples for that from the energy sector and such. But there are mostly this focus on the generic format. But in ordering process, you have, for example, the standard ordering process, and now we also have something that is called advanced ordering process, that is also enabling you to cancel and change orders and so on in a more complex way. So good questions. And of course, that is also some industries have very industry-specific formats that is delivering high value, but those are also industries that have very much standardization of this usage. But I think that it will come more and more that specific industries will specify how the format should be used in their context, but you can't change it. That's important. You need to follow the standard. So that's very good. Any other questions here? We have some minutes left. So I see a question here from Peppol has been widely utilized in Norway and Sweden for years already. What are the lessons learned from there? What should we say, Jukka? I can maybe start, but I would see from a Norwegian perspective, the most important thing was that the governments, they were requiring this in the market. When they were requiring this for their suppliers and the governments were requiring this for their suppliers, it also challenged the companies delivering to the governments and the states, and they needed to challenge the supplier, their service system vendors again. And then it popped up also standard solutions for this, because the system vendors also saw that this isn't a very custom specific solution. This can be a generic solution for many other customers because they are asking for the same thing. So you as a big player in the market need to take your role and push the market and require so that the market is growing, so that you can reach the tipping point. So it's relevant for most. So be dare to be tough enough. That's maybe the advice. So then I see also we have a question here. So when looking at the Norwegian and Swedish market, to what extent has the private sector implemented other Peppol documents apart from the invoices, such as order and order responses? Are the private sector actors actively replacing their EDI connections with Peppol? This is yes and no. You have some industry-specific formats, like in the grocery sector, that is quite advanced and is also quite strong. But the more developed the Peppol BIS standards, the more they challenge also these traditional EDI messages because of the easiness of connecting. And yes, it is. If you look at in Norway, look at this Alma registry, that is the address book called also SMP. It's over 90% of them are private customers or private companies. So it's widely used by the private sector as well. And it's getting more and more used for also ordering documents. But of course, most of it is invoicing, but it's getting more and more also for ordering messages. How are we on time, Jukka? Is it?
Yeah, I think we are soon running out of time, so I think we should be aiming for closure here. So thank you. There has been quite good questions, and even Anders had some thinking to do for answering those.
Yes. So if there are not any questions more, Jukka, they can always contact us.
Yeah, of course. Please, if you have any questions, please contact us via email. So we are here to help you.
And we wish you to thank you for your participation and investing the time with us. The webinar is recorded, and the link to the recording will be provided for you. We will send a follow-up mail with the link and also other relevant information. And if there are some questions now popping up in the end, we will also make sure that they are answered. So thank you so much. And please contact either me or Jukka, or if you have some questions or want to have a dialogue with us around these changes.
Okay, thank you for your time and have a nice day.